Level 1. The first $50. You are 24. One bedroom. One folding table that wobbles if you type too fast. One laptop that overheats by 9 p.m. Your paycheck lands on the 1st. It's gone by the 15th. Rent, then groceries, then the bus pass you renew every month at the same corner store. At work, people talk about weekend trips and new phones. You nod along and say nothing about your own numbers. Your mother calls on a Sunday. She doesn't ask for money. She never does. But you hear it. The tiredness in her voice. The pause after she says everything is fine. The sound of your father in the background asking who's calling. That night, you open a spreadsheet. Rent, food, bus fare. Then one more row. Mom and Dad. You type in $50 and stare at it for almost a minute before you press enter. It isn't a plan yet. It's barely a decision. You look up how compound interest works on a forum thread with 40 replies, half of them arguing with each other. You don't understand all of it. You bookmark the page anyway, the way you'd bookmark a map to somewhere you might never actually go. You don't tell anyone. You just start. Level 2. The number he remembered. 8 months in, the account reaches $2,400. Most of it came from the weekly $50. The rest came from a tax refund you almost spent fixing the car's air conditioning. Your friends go to Cancun for spring break. You say you're saving for something. You don't tell them what. Some nights you're not entirely sure yourself. You open a brokerage account on your phone, standing in the kitchen at 1 a.m. Your hands actually shake typing in the deposit amount, which is smaller than you'd like to admit. During a Sunday visit, your father sees the app on your phone while you're both waiting for the microwave to finish reheating leftovers. He doesn't ask what it is. He asks how much you've already put into it. You tell him a number smaller than the real one, out of habit more than dishonesty. That's the moment. Later that week, your father mentions the app to your mother in the kitchen, calling it the thing. He gets some of the details wrong, but he remembers the number you told him. Exactly. You realize the weight isn't just yours anymore. They're watching, hoping, without saying it out loud. Level 3. The second job. 2 years in, $11,000 in the market. You take a second job. Weekends, a warehouse on the edge of town, 6 a.m. shifts loading pallets until your forearms ache. Your warehouse manager asks why a guy with an office job during the week needs weekend shifts too. You tell him you're saving for a car. That's not true. But it's easier than the real answer, and easier than watching his face try to work out why. One Tuesday, the market drops. By afternoon, the account is down nearly $1,500, more than you earned during an entire month at the warehouse. You don't sleep. You check the old laptop 4 times before your alarm even goes off, scrolling red numbers in the dark. Your sister asks why you look exhausted all the time, why you keep falling asleep on the couch during family dinners. You say, work stuff. She doesn't push. Nobody in this family pushes. On your break at the warehouse, you eat a sandwich standing up and read an article about diversification on a phone screen with a cracked corner. A coworker asks what you're reading. You say, nothing important, and put the phone away before he can look closer. You start to understand something ugly. Building something for the people you love sometimes means becoming someone they don't fully know anymore. Level 4. The birthday you missed. Year 4. $34,000. A car that still runs, barely, with a check engine light you've learned to ignore. You get a promotion. More money. A slightly bigger title, a desk near the window you used to want. More money also means more hours, and more hours mean more absence. Your sister sends a video from your nephew's 5th birthday party. Everyone is singing, slightly off-key. He's wearing the astronaut helmet you mailed him 2 weeks ago. At the exact same hour, your client joins the call 17 minutes late, asks 2 questions that don't matter, and postpones the actual decision to next month. You watch the birthday video twice after the call ends, in an empty conference room. You tell yourself that stopping now would make every sacrifice meaningless. The missed birthdays, the second job, the 1 a.m. spreadsheets. It isn't completely true, but by now, it's the only explanation that lets you keep going. You send your nephew a small toy rocket that lights up, 2 days late, with a note that just says, "For launch day." He calls you on video for exactly 90 seconds to say thank you before your sister pulls the phone away for bath time. 90 seconds feels like both too little and exactly enough. Level 5. The year you went backward. Year 5 begins at $52,000. It ends at $41,000, after the warehouse eliminates your weekend position, a $2,300 transmission repair, and 6 straight months without investing a single dollar. You don't tell your parents the warehouse let you go. You say you switch shifts to focus on the main job. For 6 months, you eat the same 3 meals on rotation and stop checking the account altogether, because there's nothing new to see. By the end of year 6, after another promotion, a market recovery, and 18 months of rebuilding, your net worth climbs back to $97,000. You buy your first property, a small duplex, 2 hours outside the city, in a town you'd never heard of before the listing showed up in your search. It costs $218,000. You put down $54,500, pay another $7,000 in closing costs and immediate repairs, and keep only $6,400 in cash, less than the bank recommends and more than you feel comfortable with. One unit rents for $1,150. On paper, the deal works. In real life, the water heater fails 12 days after closing, and you drive 2 hours on a Saturday to let the plumber in yourself, because paying for emergency after-hours service would eat into a cash reserve that already feels dangerously small. You sit in the empty unit for an hour afterward, on the floor, because there's no furniture yet, and the drive back doesn't feel worth starting right away. For the first time, the number in the account and the feeling in your chest don't match at all. Level 6. The Family Bank. Year 7. You start a small consulting side business, helping small retailers clean up their inventory, pricing, and cash flow spreadsheets, work you learned at your day job and can now do almost from memory, evenings and weekends, on top of everything else. A struggling shop owner apologizes 3 times for paying you a week late and slips an extra $20 into the envelope for the trouble, which you try to give back and he refuses. A company with 12 locations disputes a $600 invoice for 6 weeks over email, CCing 3 different managers before finally paying without an apology. You learn that the ability to pay and the willingness to pay are 2 very different things. By the end of the year, consulting income and equity from the duplex help you buy 1 more small rental. Nothing impressive, but enough to make the numbers feel less fragile. Your brother calls on a Thursday night and asks to borrow $5,000 for something he'll explain later. You transfer it before dinner is even finished, without asking a single follow-up question. Then you quietly move the property tax payment to next week and hope the tenant pays on time so the numbers line up. Nobody in the family calls you the family bank out loud, but you've started keeping a mental list of who owes what, and you hate that the list exists at all. At Thanksgiving, your brother mentions the $5,000 once, in passing, as if it were a favor he did you by asking. You laugh along with everyone else at the table and say nothing, because correcting him in front of your parents would cost more than the money did. Level 7. The Invisible Success. Year 8. Net worth crosses $250,000. On paper, you've made it. You still drive the same car with the check engine light. You still check prices before ordering food, out of habit rather than necessity now. For 11 months, without telling your father, you send money to your mother to build a 4-month bridge between his final paycheck and the date his full pension begins. She tells him they finally have enough set aside. He retires 4 months early, throws a small barbecue for it, and never once asks where the extra room in the budget came from. At the barbecue, you stand near the grill and realize you're the only person there who knows the actual shape of the family's finances, and the one person nobody asks how you're doing. You start to feel invisible inside your own success. Someone at the barbecue asks what you do for work, and you give the short version, the one that fits between 2 bites of food and doesn't invite follow-up questions. Your father raises a plastic cup toward you across the yard, a small private gesture that no one else notices, and you nod back, and that's the whole conversation. Level 8. The first no. Year 9. You're managing 2 properties across 3 rental units, 2 side incomes, and 1 family that has quietly come to expect this from you, the way you expect the sun to come up. Your cousin sits across from you at your mother's kitchen table and asks for $18,000 to open a food truck. There's no written budget, no permit, no backup plan, just a napkin sketch of a menu and a promise that you'll be paid back by Christmas. You say no. First time in 9 years you've said it to anyone in this family. The silence that follows lasts longer than the pitch itself. Your cousin leaves without finishing his coffee. Your mother doesn't say anything, but she refills your cup anyway. Part of you had gotten used to being the one who never says no, and saying it now feels less like strength and more like breaking a promise you never actually made. You're not sure anymore if you kept saying yes all these years because they needed you or because you needed to be needed. 2 weeks later, you hear secondhand that your cousin found a used truck for less and got a neighbor to co-sign a smaller loan instead. It works out fine, without you, which is its own strange kind of relief and its own strange kind of sting. Level 9. What do you need? Year 10. Net worth $410,000. 2 properties, 3 rental units. A consulting business that finally turns a real, steady profit. On the outside, it looks like a decade of pure success. No one adds the missed weekends, the warehouse shifts, and 11 months of quiet transfers into a single number, because absence never appears on a balance sheet. Your mother sits you down one evening at the same kitchen table where your cousin once asked for $18,000. She says she knew when you stopped ordering lunch at the office, years ago, and started bringing rice in a container that used to hold her homemade jam. She knew when your old car needed real repairs and you told her it was still good for another year, 3 years running. She knew when the gap in your father's retirement quietly disappeared with no explanation from anyone. "Of course I knew," she says, turning her cup slowly on the table. "I just didn't know how to make you stop, without making you feel like you had failed us." She reaches across the table and closes the old laptop sitting between you, the same one that used to overheat by 9 p.m. a decade ago. For 10 years, every plan you made began with what the family needed. That night, she asks you a question no one has asked you since you were 24. What do you need? You have an answer ready for every financial problem this family has ever had. But for this one question, sitting at the same table where it all began, you say nothing. Outside, it's just past 9 p.m. The old laptop stays closed. For the first time in 10 years, 9 p.m. passes without you opening a spreadsheet.